Welcome to KansasNation.com, Rock Chalk Sports with Dan Courtwright. I am Sean Kellerman. Thanks for joining us here on this Tuesday. Excited to talk a lot of Jayhawk football and, of course, take you through a little whip around as we always do. Keep you updated on the world of sports. Got a rundown for you that we're going to get into. Big shout out to Miles Schneer and Crown Automotive for all that they have done and helping make this possible. Great partners over there, great people. Shout out to Miles and everybody over at Crown. Dan, I want to get to the rundown before we break down Kansas football and bring on a very special guest. But we got to start with the news of the day. You've seen it everywhere: Facebook, Instagram, whether it's locally or anywhere in the country.
Are you talking about Drake?
Spencer Rattler being named the quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. No,
huge news. I thought you were going to talk about Drake hosting Robert Morris for the 26-27 season in basketball.
Another good option.
John Rothstein put that out immediately after arguably the biggest news of the day is what you were alluding to. Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift are now engaged.
Yeah, Kelce
love
engaged.
is in the air.
We got to talk about that at some point because we know that's what the people want to hear, especially big football fans out there. But no, here in the opening segment, we're going to be joined by David Lawrence. He's my co-host on the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield. 43 years in the booth with Jayhawk football and a former KU captain. Get his thoughts on the Week 0 victory over Fresno State. Next segment, we're going to hear from Lance Leipold, who spoke to the media yesterday, give some injury updates, give his thoughts on the Week 0 win, which was near perfect for all KU fans. Into the 4 o'clock hour, we're talking KU volleyball. They had an unbelievable match last night. Instant classic, fell just short of a victory against number 2 Penn State. And then 5 o'clock, Dan, I am so excited for this, and I would maybe even use the word honored because you have decided to do a top 10 for our first top 10 Tuesday on KansasNation.com, honoring guys like me.
Yeah, it's a very special top 10. This is one I've been mulling over for a while. I'm doing my top 10 Seans and Daniels in sports. So
I'm honored.
A mixture of any Sean that's a famous Sean in sports and Daniels who are famous Daniels in sports. I got a really good list that I'm really proud of, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Yeah, Top 10 Tuesday, this time on a video platform. Hope you guys are excited for that. Bottom of the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to hear from 2 Jayhawk wide receivers, Cam Pickett and Keaton Kubecka. And then at the end of the show, we'll update you on the Royals, some Chiefs, and we're also going to hear from Daniel Hishaw, who spoke to the media yesterday. We asked him after, Dan, I told you this, the play that somehow was not ruled a face mask, and they've got that nice video board which most people can see. It's 3 times the size of the last one. His helmet being ripped off on a 4th and short where he was stopped short. His helmet gets ripped off, and then he continues bowling forward as Daniel Hishaw does. But he said he hadn't seen the replay, and it's like, yeah, that was pretty clear there.
Yes.
And Coach Leipold was irate protecting his guy.
I mean, we could see it from the press box. I mean, we didn't even have to see it from the video board, which, like you said, is huge. We could see it all the way from the other side of the field in the press box, and wasn't called. Again, it was a blowout, but that just goes to my point that I made yesterday about how fiery and how passionate that Coach Leipold is, where even when you're up 24 points, you're still going to fight for your guys and get on some referees if they're making a call. I did hear that the referee did wind up going up to Daniel Hishaw afterwards and said, hey, man, that's on me. I missed that one. Look, everybody, it's those Week 0 jitters. You know what I mean?
I guess, man. Even
the referees are knocking off the rust.
There should no jitters on that.
If that happens like Week 8, I'll be a little bit more upset. Week 0 is like, all right, and also KU's up 25 points. It's dangerous for sure, but I'll give him a pass. At least he apologized.
Well, DL brought up a good point on air that I'm going to ask him about regarding Daniel Hishaw and the fact that while some people would probably stop the play if they're the ball carrier and their cap gets ripped off, that's not exactly how Hishaw is wired. But David Lawrence, thanks so much for joining us here in studio today. Obviously, we're thrilled anytime you join us on our show, and we are just elated after a Week 0 victory over Fresno State. A picture-perfect night. You have seen a lot of Kansas football games, and of course, you've seen a lot of openers. We knew this one was going to be special because of the new stadium, but really couldn't have drawn it up any better.
Well, let's first talk about this room that we're in. I mean, it's fabulous.
Well, appreciate
Jayhawk Nation.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, no, we're excited and very honored that you get to be one of the first ones sitting on that couch, right?
And I do. I do feel honored by doing that. Before we get to Jayhawks, let me throw out Sean Hill. from Parsons,
There you
Kansas.
go. He better be on your list,
Best
Dan.
quarterback from the state of Kansas
Oh, yeah.
in the last 50 years.
Yes, and my understanding is that you know him.
You guys go
beyond
way
the football
back, right?
field.
Yeah, he's a family member
Yeah.
now, and love him. Lake of the Ozarks is where he hangs out. Those of you that did not know, he was 15 years in the NFL for a variety of teams, twice with the Vikings, 49ers, Cardinals, and since Kansas didn't recruit him, he went to Maryland, led them to the Orange Bowl, a la Todd Reesing-ish, and just an all right dude. So anyway, that's for later in the show. I'm doing great. As I talked to you on the post-game show, a near perfect night. And so many times, even if you win, it's marred by something, really bad weather, uh, a horrible injury. There's something negative about the occasion. And of course, half the time, on average, you lose. So that sucks. But it was literally a perfect night celebrating something that will be talked about way beyond my lifetime. I mean, it's the opening of the new booth, and it was fabulous.
Yeah, it sure was. 31-7 KU over Fresno State. And let's just get right into the conversation surrounding number 6, because he was the best player out there. And something that I've brought up not only yesterday on the show, but post game, is the lack of rust, right? That was something that the first game or two for JD last year, after having missed the majority of 2023, you saw it a little bit. He was making decisions that weren't quite JD-esque and throwing some interceptions and just wasn't as crisp. Well, you would have no idea that this was the first game after the offseason for Daniels, because he was quick, he was decisive, he was crisp, he was absolutely on the money, firing his lasers, and it just seemed like he made every right decision. I mean, all you could ask for in any quarterback, any level, is what JD did on Saturday.
Well, I'm fortunate. I'm able to go to practice. Coach Leipold allows me as a former player, and I have, I'm not a day-to-day educator anymore, so I go to practice. And I got to tell you, everything that happened, nothing surprised me.
Yeah.
I mean, JD has been like that. He's been, as I mentioned to you, in a week before, it was the best camp he's ever had. He seems not only great physically, but mental, emotionally, just a kind of sense of urgency. Uh, maybe taking responsibility for the team as that senior statesman, and maybe a little bit of an edge, but because if you can, fly under the radar, as much as people know about Jalen Daniels, he has been. So, not that he's going to be able to do that going forward as he continues to put these kind of performances together.
David Lawrence from the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield joins us down the line. And yeah, I mean, obviously looking at Jalen, you have a mark of familiarity there, but also a lot of the impact guys on that offense were brand new faces. We saw Le'Shawn Williams get into the end zone. Cam Pickett got in twice. Keaton Kubecka, who's been a program guy but just hasn't been able to get out there on the field until this year, has finally been able to get into the end zone. Just talk to me about those skill position players and how quickly they were able to make an impact on this squad against a pretty good Fresno State team. I mean, this team wasn't anything to scoff at. They weren't Lindenwood or Nicholls State. This is Fresno State. They're a big boy school.
Yeah, and BMAC had quizzed me on a number of things. Most dependable receiver, who are you going to go to on a clutch third down? My answer was number 7. Again, no surprise. Cam Pickett catches everything thrown at him, and he's been consistent. He's been out there every day, so he's been healthy. And Cam Pickett being that guy that, just kind of stole the show early on, again, doesn't surprise me. But to your point, one thing we found out about the portal, you don't have to play together 3 years to have good chemistry.
Right.
I mean, that's been tried and done for the last 3 years. And you come in the spring and you get all those reps, and you go in the summer. And I think JD flew the whole receiving corps out to California. I mean, these guys have known each other and spent so much time together. So the chemistry is there and performed very well. I think to continue with that, the takeaway after watching tape after the game, the blocking downfield of the wide receiver group. Granted, it's going to get tougher, in a week and a half, but they graded out high. There's no, Levi Wentz, what was so Keaton Kubecka, Emilion's been known for his blocking for some time. In the near future, I think you're going to see some Bryson Canty coming out, and then E-Man Henderson. Normally, a guy comes from Alabama, uh, fastest guy on the team, fastest guy on the field. You just kind of have a stereotype that this is not the guy that's trying to get a block down the field, but it actually was.
Yeah.
And they demand that there. So there you go. Wide receiver core was fabulous, particularly in blocking.
I want to talk about something that you just brought up because you brought up how you watch the tape, which you do. I told Dan, I think it was yesterday when we got in, that one of my favorite parts of the broadcast was we were in the first quarter and a play had happened. And David, I think it was in the middle of a break, you were just talking to Haney and BMAC. And you said something about how you were excited to watch the tape. Like, David, it's in the first quarter right now. You're talking about watching
to rewatch
the
a game that hasn't happened yet.
That's right.
But no, hey, that's
right.
what you do. You're a football enthusiast, and to your point, that's where you see those important elements of big plays in particular. DL, how about the offensive line? Coach Leipold said earlier in fall camp that while we weren't exactly sure who was going to start, and maybe it'll change a little bit moving forward, that 1 through 10 is as good as it's been since Coach Leipold has been here. And you saw, I guess, if you want to nitpick, Amir Herring got beat a time or two. There were some flags on Enrique Cruz. We don't know if we agree necessarily with all those, but overall, I mean, Bryce Foster dominant, and KU really won the point of attack on both sides, but the offensive line showed out.
Yes. I think there was one holding call. I would go to the bank. It was not good. I think if the league office reviewed it, which they don't, a holding call, they would agree with me. Another one I thought was 50-50. Still, you can't have that many penalties. I thought Enrique, first of all, I love this coaching point, Lance Leipold. Cruz gets a hold, and then right after that, a false start.
Yeah.
I've been there. I mean, that's not good. It's humiliating. And you know what? Lance didn't take him out. He gave someone a look, Gorsica, the next series, but did not replace him right then. And I thought, what great coaching just went on right there. Because actually, Cruz, overall, I thought he performed well for the first game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought Enrique Cruz played well, and there's still going to be some rotational pieces. Obviously, we're going to see probably a little bit of Nolan Gorsica as well as Tavake Tuikalabatu at those spots where there are some question marks. Looking at the offense as a whole, this is the first time that we've seen Coach Zabrowski call the offense since the 2023 Guaranteed Rate Bowl. Just what did you think about his offense so far? Because it was anything but vanilla. I was expecting a little bit of vanilla offense just because of the fact that, guys are still getting the install down, a lot of new guys, right? You don't want to show everything on film, but we were seeing some 13 personnel, 21 personnel, I believe is what Cam Pickett scored his 2 touchdowns on. What'd you think about Coach Z and the way that he called that game?
I think, in fact, he's told me, he has the ability to go vanilla, do some special K, Kodo Nikki, coordinator a couple of years ago, or somewhere in between. And I thought it was mostly somewhere in between. But yeah, he did tease us with, yeah, we're going to see glimpses of 2 years ago where you had defenses looking at all the eye candy and getting somewhat maybe uncertain about what's going to happen, which direction, and maybe crossing over in their head what first step's going to look like and get an advantage that way and doing it so it doesn't confuse your guys. And I think we're going to see some of that in the future.
Let's flip the field a little bit now and talk defense. We've been bullish on the edge position. Of course, we didn't see Dean Miller. Coach Leipold speaking optimistically regarding Miller returning potentially on Friday against Wagner, but it seemed like a ticking time bomb in terms of if you're EJ Warner from that game on Saturday, because at some point the guys were going to get to him, and you saw Bengali Kamara, after maybe having a rough first series, was able to go in, force a fumble. And then Leroy Harris, a guy who on that particular play, DL, I know you said you were keying in on because you could just feel like he was going to get to him. He is able to get to Warner and sack him. And you just see the depth, the length, the athleticism, especially of this front seven.
Yes. And to the point on Leroy, what is exciting about that, if you run like Leroy, I think, clocked in over 21 miles an hour, which is wide receiver speed,
It's insane.
you're thinking, outside rush, trying to just out quick the offensive tackle, using your hands, some swim move. And what Leroy did most of the game, bull rush. That's what, the plotters do, just using your size. So wait till Leroy masters some of these moves using his hands better, and you're going to see a pretty good player out there. The defense is just going to get better as the game goes on because you could say two of our three defensive stars were backups.
Yeah.
Keenan Caldwell and Devin Dye.
Devin Dye, yeah.
So that just kind of tells you a little bit about, this team's not going to fall off any. Keenan Caldwell just changed the course of the game. I mean, everyone, of course, I'm feeling like I'm shooting my mouth off to you guys on radio. It's all about defense. What do you see? Teasing that. And then first drive, we missed like 4 tackles.
Right.
And I felt that it was jitters, which it proved to be true. But after that, they settled down. But I thought the message was sent when Keenan Caldwell made back-to-back impact plays, and then later, caused a reverse to go way back, blew up the play, didn't get any credit for anything, and then pounced on a fumble, which at the time it wasn't called a fumble, but he got on it just to be secure. So Keenan was outstanding. It's great to see him out there. And you got to think someday we're going to get Gage Keys back out there.
Right.
So, and Marcus Calvin, they love, and he's a guy that can play. And those are guys that are going to be outside the 2 deep.
Yeah. Blake Harold's going to potentially be on there, but it's interesting. You're going, you mentioned Keys and even Caldwell specifically is what maybe, and no disrespect to him, the 5th or 6th name that you say up front, talking about the interior guys. And it seems like he's always making a play. It seems like no matter what the game is, what series it is, he finds a way to have his name announced on the radio. I did want to ask after that opening defensive possession, did you get any texts on your phone complaining about the defense? Because I got one and immediately was like, wow, football is back, man. I just right away I get a text of somebody complaining, we're back in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I got some from some knuckleheads that really don't chart. I mean, there was like, okay, we missed tackles on the first drive, so we're going to hold that against them for 4 quarters.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, did you know that after that first drive, we gave up like a less than $150
and plus 3 turnovers
on 51 plays, less than 3 yards per carry, and 3 turnovers.
Yeah.
But but they missed tackles on the first drive.
The texts go quiet then, don't they?
Right.
All of a sudden, right? Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, David Lawrence from the Jayhawk Sports Network from Learfield joins the show. I wanted to talk about the secondary too, because like you said, Devin Dye, kind of a surprise, got an interception out there on the field, as well as Lyric Rawls with an acrobatic interception, a little front flip somersault afterwards, if you will, after getting hit with the knees. What did you see out of that secondary that you liked? Because that secondary, there was a lot of question marks heading into the game, and as of right now, I'm feeling pretty confident about them.
Yeah, well, first of all, agree completely with Lyric, and he was the one. And I talked to him on post game. He was so geeked up. He was so excited. Yeah, he made 2 big mistakes on that drive, and after that, I didn't see anything, close to that. He's a very athletic guy that has a nose for the ball. He's a leader back there. I would say the big question that was answered, if you had any doubts, and I get it, there'll be doubters because of Fresno. But as far as the play of the inexperienced corners, Austin Alexander and Jalen Todd, I mean, they were answered.
Right.
They performed very well. Their leverage, their hips, uh, their quickness, and their physicality. I mean, these are tall, 6 foot, 6'1", long corners. And then, you got DJ Graham. I'm not sure his rep count, what it was, but he's going to be figuring more prominently going forward. A very experienced guy from Oklahoma.
Yeah, and how about the fact that you mentioned Todd and Alexander? Todd technically a sophomore, Alexander technically a freshman, both second-year guys. And then we talked about the interior, technically sophomores because they took a red shirt, and Harold and Calvin. I mean, it gets you excited about the future up front as well. A word on special teams, 2 newcomers, Laith Marjan, he comes in, 47-yarder, and then Finn Lappin, of course, had the 60-plus yard punt. But I like what Coach Leipold did with Marjan, because it's not as if KU needed to kick a field goal. It's not as if they couldn't convert a 4th and 2. In fact, they did it earlier when Lishan broke free for a touchdown, but it's giving him a chance in week 0. And a guy who was money at South Alabama went out, split the uprights. Everybody wants to feel good, right? And that's a week 0. Marjan gets a chance to feel good, and he could be the best kicker that KU has in a while. Got to prove it over an extended period of time, but that was good to see.
Yeah, I mean, he was perfect. I mean, absolutely perfect from under 50 yards of a year ago. So that's some pretty good consistency that he built up in traveling to Lawrence. And yeah, he made that 47-yarder look very routine. But how about Lappin? Um, the one question I had, and I mentioned this on the broadcast, is Aussies are trained for backspin to make them successful in Australian rules football. I don't ask me why that is so. I just know that they're trained to do that. And our last kicker from Australia, who was good at pinning people back because he had that backspin, but I never saw the topspin. And if you're punting from back in your own side of the field, particularly at your 20 or deeper, you want a topspin on the ball if the
Right.
returner doesn't catch it. And this is not the NFL. Uh, Many times you can get a topspin and roll 20 yards. And he showed that he can have a topspin, a backspin. He can float it high. I was extremely impressed with special teams, uh, those 2 guys in particular.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, looking forward, we got Wagner coming up on Friday once again at the new booth. I'm not going to ask you to go too in depth about Wagner because there's not a whole lot to see there because they have new coordinators and a bunch of new pieces on their team as well. But just talk to me about how Kansas can maintain this momentum going through Wagner up to the Mizzou game, because you know as well as everybody else, having this rivalry back for the first time since 2011 is such a huge thing. So being able to, put it to Wagner, how does that help momentum going into Columbia week 3, or I guess week 2, game 3?
Yeah, you just don't want to move backwards. The bar is going to be set a little bit differently because it's not Fresno. Fresno had a reputable recent history, and you just can't get sloppy. We can't all of a sudden not cover punts. You know, we can't make mental mistakes. Have to call timeout because people uh, don't know what formation it is. Just things that are pretty obvious about, early mistakes that teams make. No, we didn't make many of those mistakes in week 0, so we shouldn't make them in week 1. And that is aside from the number one thing, and that is to stay healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's got to be top priority, particularly in this game. But yeah, moving forward and making sure KU finds a way to clean up the penalties a little bit, but you don't want to lose the turnover margin either. You never know what can happen. So yeah, play a clean game, and KU will be just fine on Friday. David, I hope we can get you on again sometime next week, because we got to ask you about the team we play after Wagner. I just before you came on, just before we kicked off the show today, I was telling these guys, my niece, who's a senior in high school, and we are 99+% sure that she'll be heading to Mount Oriad, received a admissions offer to go to the school that we will be sending our football team to here in about a week and a half. And I got a little video of her walking that piece of paper over to the recycling bin and throwing it in there without even opening it. So that's just good energy heading into September 6th. But David, yeah, hopefully we can get you on next week and ask you about that. And we'll be talking about, well, our 2-0 Jayhawks if they take care of business on Friday. Thanks, DL.
Appreciate it, guys. And I love your new digs.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, come by anytime. We'll be excited to spend some time both on and off air with you here sometime down the line. Hey, we're going to hear from head coach Lance Leipold after this. He spoke to the media yesterday with some updates after the Week 0 win. You're watching KansasNation.com. KansasNation.com, Rock Chalk Sports, rolling you through your Tuesday. That is the face of Daniel Courtwright. I am Sean Kellerman. Looking forward to the 5 o'clock hour. We are going to have a top 10 Tuesday, and one I've been looking forward to, top Daniels and Sean's in sports. And Dan always brings it on what's always a very special top 10.
They're always very special. I say that every single Tuesday, a very special top 10 Tuesday. And this, I mean, I figured
it's going to tug at the heartstrings. I think.
I like it. It's top 10 Sean's and Daniels in sports. It's going to be a nice ego booster for all of us.
Absolutely, no doubt about that.
All Sean's and Daniels in the world.
Shout out to Family Leisure as well as Crown Automotive, Miles Schnare, and all the people over there helping make this video cast possible. We're going to hear from KU's head football coach Lance Leipold. His weekly presser is going to be on Mondays pretty much every week. So we heard from him yesterday, and let's hear from Coach right now.
Morning.
All right, everyone. Coach Leipold, we have mics on both sides. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic to you.
Get started with Henry.
I said I was going to break the pattern. So go ahead.
Tendency breaking. Weir Rawls was praised for his leadership over the course of fall camp and just since he's been in the program. To see him play as well as he did, getting an interception, how cool is that?
Yeah, I think Lyric's been a great addition to this program. From the time he came on his visit, he's shown lots of maturity, passion for the game. Studies it. He's well liked in the locker room. Loves the way he goes about it. I thought he had a solid game. He had that was a big time interception, and definitely a nice way to get started for him. And a guy that again that we're going to count on a lot in that back end throughout the season.
You had a chance to go back and look at the tape from Saturday. What were some things that stood out to you?
I thought we played very hard. I thought we were physical. Defensively, I thought we played extremely well after the first series. Controlled line of scrimmage, did the things that we set out to do, created some turnovers. Offensively, I thought Jalen played really well. Accurate with the ball, where he was going, decisive, all those things. Thought the backs ran hard. I'm pleased with the way we protected the quarterback. Those type of things. We got to clean up the penalties, be better with our hands. A couple 5-yard penalties that you don't want to have. Moving offsides on an extra point, things like that we got to do better concentration. But I think I said it Saturday night was it's a good first win to have that type of win, but there's also plenty on the film that you can point out that we have to embrace to get better at.
Players were in the mule room. I haven't done an official name, but for the first time today.
You and I both. No, I think it's a Jayhawk club. I think not to be confused with the other Jayhawk club in town. Sorry.
You broke me. Talking about the temporary building behind us and then now moving into that, can you maybe speak to what that means for the players and what it looked like for them in the past?
Yeah, I mean, we've, and probably a good time to thank all our local businesses that have been part of our catering, at least since, for many years and probably since our arrival and everything that they've done. But this gives us a chance to have meals that are cooked and prepped right here. We've eaten in the old area here. We've eaten in the indoor, and then we had temporary structure that was put together. And our guys have done what we've asked them, and they've made the best of those things. But now to have a top of the line type food dining area, our guys are really excited, and to see their faces. And I walked in the team meeting today, and even as we wrapped up practice, guys were talking about lunch already, and they're all excited. And you have Chef Mike there, and to have something like that, it's new and exciting, and it's going to benefit our guys and in so many different ways. So it's another fine addition to our program.
With a short week playing on Friday, how does that change your preparation throughout this week?
Well, we had a practice last night. We had to bring them in yesterday afternoon. Usually Sunday's our day off. Put the game to rest. They got a lift in. Had our meetings. Took the field around 6 o'clock and for a short practice. And I thought they moved around pretty well considering, and the soreness and all those things. And then today I thought they again moved around better than I probably anticipated. Got a lot to clean up and get ready in the game plan, but like the attitude, so everything's kind of that one day ahead, and then Saturday will be their day off for the week.
And looking at the progression of some of the guys who didn't dress from Saturday's game, just where are they at?
Dean practiced today. I'm very feeling like he should be available. Trying to go through all the list of Gage Keys is probably still out. Jack Snyder will still be out. Dylan Brooks will be out. David Abajuan will be out for the season. As we said before, who else am I missing in there?
LaShawn.
I'm sorry? LaShawn.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be, he was out. Yeah, he was out there yesterday doing a little. It'll still be questionable to doubtful. We'll see with him. Try to use my words if I got to get ready for all that stuff. So, Joseph will be. He'll be out.
How did you kind of end up scheduling Wagner? What's your relationship with that?
I don't really have a relationship with them. I haven't met their coach and stuff. I know obviously Steven Matos was with us as an analyst, and then was there for a couple seasons. Now he's back with us. Looking at opportunities, and we looked at our FCS scheduling, and some of those Northeast schools had expanded their games, and again, it was something that kind of fit into the opportunity, so we took advantage of it and scheduled them. And again, the Friday night is something that, because of the holiday weekend, we thought would be the best way to fit it in as well.
DK, you showed a lot of different looks up front and everything. As a guy with an offensive background and a former quarterback, what sort of challenge does that present for an opponent trying to prepare for that?
Yeah, there's a lot of different looks. DK's done a nice job of mixing it up in personnel groupings. I think we did some things that were somewhat sometimes similar, but left the same people on the field to get to those where right now we use some substitutions. You can still rotate a lot of guys, given, again, the looks, the different movements, things like that all make things difficult in communication, much like what we are on offense. Hopefully we're becoming a little bit of that on defense, a little bit more than we have been in the past, giving different looks, anticipating where people are coming from, trying to mix it, cause communication gaps, protection breakdowns, all those type of things. And the thing DK's done a nice job of is demanding communication with our players. And though it still has to improve, our guys are talking more on the field, and they're communicating and making sure that we all know what's going on and things. And I really like where that defense is trending.
Obviously, you can't talk about anybody specifically, but it was a big recruiting weekend for you guys, having them in with the new stadium and everything. What sort of buzz have you heard back?
Yeah, it was very good. Obviously walking around, looking at their faces, talking to them a little bit before the game, and then trying to get with them after the game. It was a really good mix of some 26, 27, and a few 28s at the game. again, they sense the excitement, they see the commitment, all those different things that are adding to this program. I think, we talked about between that and visiting coaches that came to the game and took advantage of the opportunity we provide there. And we look back to what it was 5 years ago. It's a night and day difference of where that's at. And again, we have to stay after it and stay thorough in what we're doing. But it's exciting to see people come from really all over the country to come check out our program this early in the year. And that's one of the advantages of playing in week 0 is we file a waiver to have the opportunity to have someone come this early. But it's definitely one that you can, as young men, have many opportunities to go see games and take a look at a lot of schools. It worked to our favor this week, very much so.
Lance, the punting, the kicking game all looked pretty solid. What was your take on that? Is that what you saw in the ball game?
Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to gauge everything in punting during certain times. You don't do a ton of live stuff, but I thought Finn Lampert did a very nice job late. Is probably everything we'd hoped he would be as well, and what he has shown since he's been here in consistency. But both those guys I thought had excellent days, and again, we want that to continue. But I thought we were solid there. I thought kick return. I think we returned the first one, probably one we should have kept in the end zone. Kind of caught it. I think Emmanuel's excited, tried to make something happen. Kind of caught the kickoff. Momentum going a little bit backwards and probably didn't get it, didn't block it as well as we needed to. But I thought, of course, for a true freshman in his first game, Tate Nagy did a very nice job in the punt return game for us, made good decisions, had one return. So something to build upon once again.
Watching Bengali and Trey and some of the linebackers, is this a little more athleticism, maybe the way they run than some of the pass groups?
I've always tried to stay out of total comparisons, John, there, but I think between the length and athleticism, it's something that we thought might be the case as we headed into this year with those guys. Bengali showed why we thought he was an important addition, and Trey, I thought, had a very good game as well. He's a very solid player, a good football player, and again, they had good games and really showed up in this scheme, and were very active all day long.
And I think Carson played the most snaps of having tight ends. What does he kind of bring to the table, especially as a freshman, to kind of play?
There's 4 tight ends that are seeing time, as you know, but he did get the most. I think right now he's probably the biggest body of them and the best inline blocker that we have. But he has shown that he's been very consistent through camp and will continue to battle for those. But as you can see, all those guys are seeing time during all times of the game, I guess is how I want to say it. So it'll continue to be, but Carson Bruin showed that he is going to be a very, very good football player here in the future.
And with the offense, you guys have a lot of different guys that catch the ball. Is that kind of the focal point this year to kind of spread the ball?
It's going to be depending on games, of course, but I think we have 10 guys catch passes, which, again, spreading the ball around keeps a lot of people happy and get them all on the field and let them show what they can do. But, I don't know if it can be that way every game, but as you say, when you're playing 4 tight ends and you're playing 5-6 receivers and you're rotating some backs in there and like Harry Stewart gets a catch and things, he saw his real first action. It's good to see and good to see the versatility of those skilled players.
With Steven and his experience at Wagner, how much is he a knowledge considering the fact that Wagner's not played a game this year?
Yeah, there's a new coordinator obviously replacing Steven, and there's, I think, defensively they've made some changes in how they're going to call it. So, playing someone, it's a little bit like last week where you got a lot of unknowns. Their offensive coordinator came from Union College, so you're trying to watch Union College film and you're trying to find other ways to find out what identity would be. Like everyone, we have opportunities to add older players, so what's the makeup going to be for sure. It's a program, being in Staten Island, that doesn't get a ton of coverage in that type of that like many of us are fortunate to have. So it's hard to dig up things that are happening daily in the program and things like that. So again, you got to be sound early in the game, find out what the identity of their game plan is going to be on both sides of the ball, and then go play.
Hey, with the offense, how did it feel to have Z calling the game again? And I know it's familiar to you over the years, but
Jim, I think called an excellent game. I think again, still been pretty consistent from what we want to be over the years. I know that'll continue to be heavily analyzed in this room, but I think our balance was there. I thought again it was, Jim's done it a long time. I kind of know it's not like it's I thought operationally on both sides of the ball, the staff communicated extremely well. I think we had one mix-up defensively, personnel-wise, but other than that, it was clean on the headphones. Everybody seemed to be, there wasn't a moment of uncertainty on certain things, so I was very pleased with the job of the assistant coaches in that regard.
And then with the captain's thing, if you mentioned this when you announced them, I apologize, but what went into DJ being that fourth one? I know it's going to rotate, but what
really what DJ has done, for a long time in this program, but and I talked a little bit of the staff about some possibilities, and DJ was one that there wasn't really any debate on the subject because of really the work ethic of what DJ Withers brings this program each and every day on that practice field is really special. He works extremely hard. Not that we don't have others, okay, and that's always what you got to be careful of. But the way DJ Withers goes about it, same reason why we took him to media day, for what he's done for this program and who he is and how he goes about it in a position that doesn't get a lot of notoriety. But there's a guy that had his tonsils taken out, shortly before the season camp started. And, having your tonsils out at that age is not easy. And DJ, kind of went through it, and he gained, keeping weight on in camp is a struggle. He put on 12 pounds, and through the heat and through the work and all those things, you got to work at it, and he did, and he's a great example in many regards for this program.
You mentioned it a bit there with Matt's question, but having Z in the box and DK on the field, were you using the Fresno game at all as evaluating if that's how you wanted that to be, or were you confident moving forward? That's how you guys would handle the season?
I was confident moving forward that it'd be, I want, like I said earlier, I think it's, personally, I feel it's still strong for the offensive coordinator to be up and somewhat away where you can process and see things immediately. I think defensively, you have a chance to have a better sense of what's going on through the information there. It can be either way, but as I said, I'm probably more open to the coordinators being on the field because of the tablets and other resources that we have, more than I would have been, like I said earlier, and again just because sometimes those offensive. I don't even know how those guys would carry their whole easel of long charts of plays and grease boards and all that. So it's good that they're up there, and I thought it worked well, So and DK, probably the thing I didn't know exactly how he was going to do it, but if you notice, he works away from the ball a lot and gets himself angles where he can see where there's not, where he's processing, not a lot of people around him. He doesn't have to be right at the ball and things like that. So again, giving opportunities for guys to be comfortable to do the job to the best of their abilities.
Thanks.
That's Lance Leipold yesterday at the podium. While we're thinking of it, go to kansasnation.com. You're going to see highlights, interviews, all sorts of write-ups, all sorts of previews for KU football, and we're going to have something on KU soccer for you a little later this week as well. We heard from Nate Lee and a couple of the KU soccer players today. We'll have that, of course, on our show moving forward, but kansasnation.com. You can find all your coverage of all things KU. Some good news there from Coach Leipold. Interesting that he said, I believe, questionable to doubtful regarding Le'Shawn Williams. Of course, it's a short week. You're playing an FCS opponent. Perhaps an opportunity, Dan, to see a little bit more of Johnny Thompson, Harry Stewart, those type of guys, as well as Hishaw.
Yeah, I'm excited. Also, another guy who we could potentially see is Justin Thurman, a true freshman who's coming in to this Kansas squad. A lot of hype is around Justin Thurman. Obviously, you have your two bell cows in Hishaw and Williams, and you also have Harry Stewart and Johnny Thompson. But I'm excited to see some of these younger guys heading into Wagner. I think this is going to be quite. I guess we'll probably see quite a few of these guys, right? Because there is that new rule where you can technically play 4 games and still maintain your red shirt. So we could potentially see Adrian Holly out there on the defensive side of the ball. You're going to see a lot of younger guys, which I'm really anxious to see. Malachi Curvey as well. So we're going to see a lot of these guys. And I mean, I'm not a coach, so I don't listen to me. But if it was me, like you said, it's an FCS opponent on a short week. I think that if you can, you save Le'Shawn Williams as much as possible. And I know that he said that Dean Miller might be good to go. Joe Sip, probably not good to go. But at the same time, do you consider maybe sitting those guys? I'm not saying that, I go back and forth on this, I guess, a little bit because I think that you should play your guys as much as possible. But also at the same time, it is Wagner, and not to discredit anything from Wagner, but looking at the game afterwards, it's Mizzou, and you need all of your guys healthy for that Mizzou game. You're going to need Hishaw. You're going to need Williams. You're going to need Dean Miller. You're going to need Joseph, all those guys at 100%. So I'm excited to see whether or not those guys actually get a whole lot of play. I wonder even how much JD is going to be playing into that fourth quarter, and that's going to be an exciting thing is if Kansas is up X amount. I don't know what the point total would be, but how much Isaiah Marshall do we see? How much Cole Ballard do we see, right? How much Tate Nagy do we see on the offensive side of the ball as opposed to just returning punts? So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, most important thing is getting the win and staying healthy, which Kansas did in week 0 for the most part. Might not see Williams on Friday. And last year against Lindenwood, JD played the first half. KU had a more than comfortable lead. So you did see some Ballard and some Marshall. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens again, assuming KU is able to get out to that big lead against Wagner on Friday at the booth in week 1. After this, we're talking a little KU volleyball. Stick around, 5 o'clock hour. We're going to hear from Cam Pickett, Keaton Kubecka, Daniel Hishaw. Plus, we've got a Top 10 Tuesday. You're watching KansasNation.com. Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports, KansasNation.com. Next segment, we're going to have our Top 10 Daniels and Sean's in sports. You don't want to miss that on this Top 10 Tuesday. Plus, you're going to hear from a couple KU wide receivers and Deuce Hishaw a little bit later in the show. But quick update on KU volleyball. This match started at 5:30 yesterday, so we were still on. KU ranked number 14 in the country against number 2 Penn State in the second game of the year for KU volleyball and second of the tenure of Matt Ulmer. And the first set was still going on when we signed off, Dan, but KU put forth a really impressive effort and were unable to get it done in the first set. Ultimately, they took Penn State, the defending national champs, to 5, but lost in that 5th set 15-12. Matt Ulmer saying post-game, quote, "This was a much better brand of volleyball for us. Although we didn't get the result we wanted, Kansas is a team that can do something in December. With this type of effort and this type of attitude, we can be who we want to be," end quote. And what was really interesting about this is you saw a lot of different pieces out there for KU than you saw in the season opening victory, which was also a 5-set match over Vanderbilt. You saw Katie Dalton get the call, her first career start as a setter, 54 assists for Dalton. Plus, you saw fantastic performances from Selena Laban. She had 20 kills. Ryan Swanson, a program girl, had 18. And it's just kind of different than what we've seen in the past, really, for a long time, because who knows how it's going to shake out. And I'm sure eventually Coach Ulmer will settle on, a 6 to 10 girl rotation or however many that is. But under Coach Bouchard, the talent was I don't say there's a huge gap, but you pretty much knew who the starters were going to be.
Right.
And we've seen in 2 matches, one being against the top 2 team in the country, that Coach Ulmer's not going to be afraid to filter girls in and out. And impressive for Dalton in her first career start on really one of the biggest stages that you can be on to hang 54 assists. And KU was right there at the end with Penn State.
Yeah, and it's kind of an embarrassment of riches, right? I mean, you have essentially with Kristen Klein, Grace Nelson, Kenzie Dean, Reagan Burns. I mean, those girls did really well in that opener against Vanderbilt, and then it felt like Matt Ulmer was kind of still trying to figure some things out. So that's why he gave Ryan Swanson and Katie Dalton and Selena LeBon different, just more run in this Penn State game. So props to Matt Ulmer for still trying to figure this out while playing against the defending national champion in Penn State, taking them all the way to 5 and barely losing 15-12 in that last set. I can't imagine a loss like that being so close to the reigning national champion is going to bump the Jayhawks down a little bit, but right now they're 1-1 with a lot of games left to play. So Matt Ulmer, his tenure here at Kansas has really gotten off to as good of a start as you can possibly get while being 1-1.
Well, you don't have to read too much in between the lines in terms of Matt Ulmer's press conference to know how he's felt. He honestly, I don't want to say ecstatic because it was a loss. It's still a loss, and we understand that. KU had a chance to beat Penn State, and the Nittany Lions got it done at the end, but very happy with the brand of volleyball. You compare that to post-game against Vanderbilt, you didn't have that quite as much, not quite as bullish on his team. So who knows what the future will hold in terms of rotation, but it doesn't get much easier. Friday coming up, KU heads to the Kohl Center to take on Wisconsin, another volleyball power, and then Creighton, a team that is no longer with their head coach, Kristen Bernthal Booth. She was a Creighton legend who moved on from the program, but she had a fantastic program while she was at Creighton, and I'm sure they're going to continue to put forth a great team. Creighton and KU on the volleyball court have had one instant classic after another for the past dozen years or so. And then after that, the Purdue tournament, where KU is going to take on not just the Boilermakers, but Bowling Green and Georgia Tech. And then you have the South Dakota tournament, second weekend of September. But leading into that, a lot more high-quality matches, and excited to see what the rotation looks like, again, because it's a little bit different than what we've seen, kind of knowing who at least the top 4 or 5 players are going to be at the top 6 of the rotation for KU. Quick note on KU softball. They've got a fall schedule, a few games before the spring season gets underway.
Yeah, just a few games. They announced their fall schedule at Arocha Ballpark. It's going to be Friday, September 26th with a 5 p.m. matchup against Baker University just down the road. It's going to be at Arocha Ballpark. KU is going to host Rockhurst as well on Wednesday, October 1st at 6 p.m. under the lights in Lawrence. KU will be traveling to Columbia, Missouri to take on the Mizzou Tigers on October 4th. Then they're going to be facing Ottawa University, once again, just down the road on Wednesday, October 8th. Then they have a match up against Nebraska on Saturday, October 18th. First pitch is scheduled for 5 p.m. right there. They're returning 17 players from last season, and they're just continuing to grow this softball team as well. Kaylee Washington has been a rock star for them, as well as a number of different players. So really excited to see this Kansas softball team get out there in some fall action.
Jennifer McFall is the head coach of KU softball. After this, it's a Top 10 Tuesday. Top 10 Dan's and Sean's in sports. You're watching on KansasStation.com and listening to ESPN Kansas City. Welcome back to Rock Chalk Sports on Kansas Nation. Shout out to Miles Schneier, Crown Automotive, all the great people over there. They are great partners of the show, helping us make this possible. Dan, it is time for our inaugural Top 10 Tuesday here on KansasNation.com. Well, I'm excited for it. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, so I decided to do this one because you and I, we have relatively common names, right? There's a lot of Seans and there's a lot of Daniels out there in the world, and there's
certainly
a lot of
more Daniels.
There's a lot more Daniels in the world. There's some Seans too, if you consider all of the spellings and the Lee Seans and the different variations.
Deshaun Jackson, one of the great Seans of our time.
Right, exactly. But yeah, I feel like I've always personally thought that I've been the most athletic Daniel in the world, and you've always been the most athletic Sean in the world, which is a low bar. But the more that I look into it, the more I think, no, there's actually quite a few Daniels and Seans in sports who are, relatively pertinent in sports.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do my top 10 Sean's and Daniels in sports. So this is going to be both Sean's and Daniels. I have them listed out, and this is, by the way, based on all of my research, this is the way that it shook out on the top 10 list. So let's go ahead and kick it off with number 10. Number 10 on my top 10 Sean's and Daniels in sports is going to be a local favorite, Dan Quisenberry.
Ah, great poll.
Royals legend, yes. 1985 world champion, three-time All-Star, two-time runner-up in the Cy Young, and just a guy who some of the older folks, I never got to watch him play. He stopped playing in the 1990s, but just a guy who, by the way, another Dan with a fantastic mustache.
Yes,
just a wonderful mustache.
Here's some Royals trivia for you. Obviously, won the World Series in 1985.
Yes.
And the MVP of the World Series in 85 was?
Brett Saberhagen.
It was. Man, I'm proud of you.
Look at that.
God, here I am thinking that you knew absolutely nothing about the Royals.
I know stuff.
Yeah.
Brett Saberhagen and Salvador Perez were on a commercial one time. So that's why I know this.
Yes.
Yeah, that was before my time. Sean, you were roommates with him in college, weren't you?
I was.
Right, that's right. That's why.
That's a good one. That's a top 5 joke. We should do top 5 jokes. That Dan says, and certainly that would be on there.
I'm sure it would be.
I can't have another Coke would be on there.
I'm driving. Yeah.
Since the second Obama administration, I think would be
right.
there. Oh, yes. I haven't seen that since the second Obama administration.
Yeah.
I couldn't find the bathroom, so I just went.
That's a great one.
That's another.
That's a great joke. I stand by that one.
Taking a picture of somebody and saying
that was all selfies. Yeah.
We spend way too much time together. Yeah.
Another great one. Yeah. I am becoming incredibly predictable to Sean. But so all right, Dan Quisenberry on my top 10 Sean's and Daniels in sports. Let's go ahead and go with number 9. Number 9, a special one. Maybe some local people won't like this one, but I think he's a fantastic color analyst as of right now. Hall of Famer. Let's go with Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts, 6-time Pro Bowler,
you couldn't have
All-Pro.
alternated. You couldn't have done Dan Sean.
So that's the
that would have put me at number 1.
I know, but yeah. So in my research, this is the way that it shook out in terms of just what's the better name. So don't worry, we'll get to some. Right. There's Sean's and Daniels all over sports, and this is just the top 10 Sean's and Daniels in all of sports. But Dan Fouts, by the way,
10K. Is that in 10K? I love it.
Yeah, Dan Fouts, he had an incredible career. I didn't know he led the NFL in passing yards 4 straight years. Was All Pro 2 times in his career, and again one of the better. I liked this stuff, but just one of the better color analysts I think in the NFL as of right now. He's really good at it. I think Greg Olson, by the way, is number 1. He's by far and away my favorite. Then Dan Fouts might be number 2.
Greg Olson's your number 1, Dan or Sean?
No. Dan Olson's my number 1 color analyst, but Dan Fouts is my number 9.
All 15 years with the San Diego Chargers. How about that?
I know it's that's hard to do.
Yeah,
hard to do. So shout out to Dan Fouts, a legend. Hall of Famer. So this is my, by the way, top 10 Sean's and Daniels in sports. Let's go ahead and go with number 8. Number 8, I'm going to go with former NFC champion head coach Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn and current Washington Commanders head coach as of right now. Had a very good first year with the Washington Commanders. What you're shaking your head about?
No.
Like I said in my research, this is the way that it shook out. I'm just.
I don't need to hear you say.
Do you want
research.
Me to pander to the Seans of the world, or do you want me to
say research again? Hey, you know what? It's fine.
Yeah,
Dan Quinn. Hey, good for him and the Washington football team last year, going to the NFC Championship game. I mean, nobody would have seen that.
Now, granted,
It makes me wonder something about later this list, but we'll see.
Sure, we'll
see. So Dan Quinn, all right, he comes in at number slightly better than Dan Fouts.
Yes, NFC. He did win an NFC championship, and then he did blow a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl to Tom Brady. I understand that. That's why he's only at number 8. He probably would have been higher, but I think, and I am on record saying this, that I think that Jaden Daniels is going to be a top 5 MVP vote getter this year, and I think they're going to make it back to the NFC Championship.
I don't think that's a particularly warm take.
I got 2 people taking that bet. He wants that bet.
Yeah, I don't think that's a hot take.
Top 5? All right, top 3. How about that?
Oh man, wow.
I don't think you'll win, but I think he'll be top 3.
Mahomes is going to be top 25 MVP candidate. Is what you're telling me.
Yeah, he's a top 16.
Let's get some Sean flavor in here now.
So, and again, this is just the way that the list shook out. I didn't want to pander to any Seans who are listening.
Save the Seans for the top.
But yeah, so all right. So Dan Quinn was my number 8. Number 7, I'm going to go with Danny Ainge. Danny Ainge is a fascinating character because of the fact Danny Ainge probably should have been higher on this list. Danny Ainge, I don't know if you knew this, he was drafted in 3 different professional sports leagues. He was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in the MLB. He was drafted by the Minnesota Vikings in the NFL, and he was drafted by the Boston Celtics. Obviously, that's where he made his living, and he's stuck around the NBA. I believe he's the GM of the Utah Jazz as of right now. But talk about a guy who is just a stellar athlete and a fellow Daniel as well. I could never go by Danny, though. That's the heartbreaking thing. I tried to go by Danny in like 2nd grade. I just walked into school one day, and I was like, hey, guys, call me Danny. And all my friends were like, no. So that was a little, it hurt. I don't think I look like a Danny. I'm more of a Daniel kind of guy. But Danny Ainge, a fellow Daniel.
You're certainly not. You're certainly not a Danny. Yeah, he was with the Celtics from how long to how long? I mean, he was. I'm talking about as an executive.
Oh, forever.
Yeah, almost 20 years. Right?
Yeah, at least almost 20 years.
And then he goes to the Jazz.
Yeah, he's with the Jazz right now.
I got to read up a little bit more on his. He did score 20 a game in 88-89.
Yeah,
for the Sacramento Kings. All right, he's
like
got
I said,
enough.
I think as in my research, which has been virtually 0, I would say that he's probably the only player to ever be drafted by 3 professional sports leagues.
That is definitely not true.
There's no way that's not true.
All right, Danger Russ Wilson.
But he was drafted in 2.
Okay, he probably was taken by an NHL franchise.
No way. Russell Wilson has never picked up a hockey stick in his life.
Tony Gonzalez. He wasn't ever drafted.
No, he wasn't drafted by the NBA. He did play basketball when he was at Cal. Let's see. Antonio Gates didn't get. No, I don't think Jordan was drafted. I know Patrick Mahomes, I think, was drafted late. There are a lot of football guys were drafted in the MLB,
late
but
MLB.
There's not a lot.
That's what it is. It's you got to have MLB.
Yeah, there's not a lot of guys who.
You're right. That's tough. That's tough.
Basketball too. I mean, Danny Ainge, legendary. This is my top 10 Seans and Daniels, by the way, in sports.
Which so far is only Dan's.
Right, and again, that's just the way that the research shook out.
I've got a couple of Seans that I know are going to be on here.
This is completely unbiased.
There's
by
be a couple on
by
here.
the way. Let's go ahead and go with number 6. Number 6, I'm going to go with Danny Green. Danny Green, NBA legend, North Carolina legend, a man who just could jump out of the gym. He actually, by the way, Danny Green had his ring finger chopped off because he dunked a ball so hard while he was wearing a ring, he had to have it amputated.
Yeah, why?
Isn't that crazy?
Why would he not take his ring off? Man,
I have no idea.
They make those little, whatever they're called.
Yeah, but this is before the silicone bands were in style.
Yeah,
so,
I see.
But yeah, Danny Green, just an absolute legend. I always loved watching him play basketball. That was like the first. Oh gosh, who's the guy who played at UNLV who could just jump out of the gym? No, I can't remember his name. He was a relatively recent player. I think he's still bouncing around. Did the dunk contest a few times.
UNLV,
but
still in the league.
I think he's still in the league. He might not be in the league anymore. But Danny Green was that guy first. Danny Green was just one of the better athletes of all time, especially one of the better athletes whose name's Sean or Daniel, and he just happens to be another Daniel. So, and
crazy.
again, I don't want to. This is unbiased by me. It's just the way that the list is shaking out.
Danny Green was a part of the stacked 2008 North Carolina basketball team that lost by 18 to the Jayhawks.
That is correct.
In the old
Brandon Rush game.
Brandon Rush game. Well, pretty
much.
Right.
That's why he's on my list, is because he never beat the Jayhawks.
Yeah.
So
hey, you know what? All right, Danny Green's number 6. You're number 5.
Number 5 on my top 10 Seans and Daniels in sports is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, who, by the way, I have this bet with both of you, going to be a top 3
Gabe, did you sign off
NBA
on this
pick. Jaden Daniels, by the way, I want to talk about his career because he started at Arizona State as a true freshman, and when he transferred, his Arizona State teammates cleaned out his locker for him because they wanted him gone. Goes to LSU, finds his footing there, wins the Heisman, and just explodes from there. He is a phenomenal player. Now, I don't like the fact that his mom is all up in his business. I don't know if he's dating Juju Watkins as of right now, but I like Jaden Daniels a lot because his name sounds like Jalen Daniels. So that's not – and that's
no, you're not foreshadowing at all.
No, I'm not foreshadowing anything at all. But Jaden Daniels, I consider him a fellow Daniel. He is a part of the brotherhood of Daniels. And again, this is I just want to reiterate, this is the way that the research has been shaking out.
Should we at some point do top 2 Jujus in sports?
We could, yes. I believe there's only 2.
Yes,
Juju Smith-Schuster and Juju Watkins.
That's it. Number 4. Time to break out the Seans.
Number 4. On my top 10 Seans and Daniels in sports is Dan Gable, legendary wrestler. Have you ever heard of Dan Gable?
I have.
By the way, I want to read you off his record. So he went 64-0 in high school as a wrestler. Went to Iowa State, believe it or not.
You're already missing some Seans.
118-1. And see, here's the thing. I understand that there are some Seans out there, but again, just these guys, when you're doing a list of top 10 of those names, you kind of get pigeonholed, right? So there's just a way that it shook out. But Dan Gable, Olympic gold medalist in Munich without surrendering a single point. Unbelievable. 118-1 in his collegiate career. Arguably known as the greatest wrestler of all time, went on to coach at Iowa. He won 15 national titles in 21 seasons as Iowa's head coach. Really impressive stuff by Dan Gable. The one that he lost in, I don't remember the guy's name, but I remember they used to say this to us to try to fire us up. I actually wrestled 7th and 8th grade. I spent the entire seasons on my back. I was a horrible wrestler. But there's one guy who just made it his mission to beat Dan Gable, and he practiced harder, and that just goes to show you if you practice really hard, you can beat the greatest of all time. And it's like, well, yeah, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna quit wrestling now and stick with basketball. That was kind of what I told my coaches. They tried to tell me that to keep me into wrestling. I said, no way. But yeah, Dan Gable.
Shout out to Larry Owings of the University of Washington.
Larry Owings, that was his name.
For knocking him off.
Yes.
That's crushing, man. That's crushing.
Yeah, it's horrible.
That's gonna be like you when you don't have any Seans until number 1. I'm hoping to
right.
at least extend an olive branch after you've gone through 7 without a Sean.
Yes,
there's some Seans out there that
it hasn't been 7. Have I not had a Sean on this list yet?
Number 3.
I can't believe I haven't had a Sean on this list yet. All right, number 3. Let's go with number 3. Number 3. You're gonna like this one. Dan Marino. So Dan Marino, former almost Super Bowl winning quarterback, nicknamed Dan the Man. By the way, you know what his middle name is?
Wasn't he also drafted? I want to put that. Didn't the Royals draft him? Dan Marino?
Did the Royals draft Dan Marino? That's crazy.
I don't know.
His middle name is Constantine.
That's
Daniel Constantine Marino Jr. He's not even the first.
Your middle name is Peter Joseph something.
Joseph Peter Juan Diego. That is correct.
Joseph
Hall of Famer, 9-time Pro Bowler, 3-time All-Pro guy, led the league in passing yards 3 of his first 4 seasons in the NFL, spent every single year with the Miami Dolphins. Dan Marino, shout out. Did the unthinkable, went undefeated, did not win a Super Bowl though. So
did not.
Yeah, that is the only tick that I have against him. But again, just a really good quarterback. He kind of took the reins after Dan Fouts because Dan Fouts, when he kind of came into the NFL, he was the one who really, really kind of perfected that air raid offense. And he was the one who, like, people were like, oh, you can actually throw this much in the NFL? And then after Dan Fouts kind of left, Dan Marino picked right up where he left off and just kind of took off from there. So Dan Marino, that's why he's my number 3. Do you have
to make myself feel better after what's been a disastrous top 10 so far on your part? Dan Marino, in fact, was selected by the Kansas City Royals 4th round back in the 1979 Major League Baseball draft.
Nice.
I don't think he was also selected in the NHL.
Let me look through this again. Yeah, I guess I haven't had a Sean
I know
on
you're
here
sitting
yet.
I know you're sitting on Jalen Daniels at some point, and we'll see who number 2 is.
So, all right, so let's go with number 2. Number 2, I'm going to go with a recent guy. I'm going to go with Daniel Hishaw. Daniel Hishaw, starting running back for the University of Kansas, has yet to break free yet. I'm looking forward to it. But just an all-around program guy, just a guy you really want to root for. Changed his body completely over the course of this offseason. And found his love for football back, and he's filling in those big shoes of Devin Neal. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see. That's not a Sean.
How about Daniel Hishaw?
I have a lot of. By the way,
get that Daniel Hishaw.
No, that doesn't count. Daniel Hishaw. See, that's the thing. I have a lot of honorable mentions who are and. I'm not seeing a lot of Sean's on there as well.
We are going to hear from Daniel Hishaw a little bit later in the show.
Yes, we are. And then let's go ahead and go on with number 1. Drum roll. You know who it is. It's got to be
Sean Taylor.
No, Jalen Daniels, starting quarterback for the University of Kansas, 18-20 against Fresno State for 176 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's the front runner for Heisman as of right now. Having JD on our squad just makes you feel better, doesn't it? And the fact that his last name is Daniels, he's a part of that brotherhood, just like Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, I consider him a Daniel. Jalen Daniels, I also consider him a Daniel. So it's an exclusive club. And let's go through 1 through 10. So I'll kind of give you a breakdown. So 10 is Dan Quisenberry, former Royals legend. 9 is Dan Fouts. 8, Dan Quinn, head coach of the Washington football team Commanders. Number 7, Danny Ainge, drafted by 3 different professional sports leagues. Number 6, Danny Green. Number 5, Jaden Daniels. Number 4, Dan Gable. Number 3, Dan Marino. Number 2, Daniel Hishaw. And number 1, Jalen Daniels. And Sean, again, this is just how the research kind of laid it out for me, but that's just all of them are Daniels.
You don't have Sean Taylor.
I really didn't mean to do this.
You don't have Sean Taylor on there. You don't have
honorable mention.
Sean White.
Sean White was honorable mention.
There.
Yeah.
The Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels.
Shawn Michaels, honorable mention again.
And